Was trying to use this phone, but worthless. Hey, Andrea. Hello, Laura. Jordan, how are y'all doing? Making sure I have everything out. So I told y'all that I found this video of this kid getting beat by officers. It was like 10, 15 officers that beat the hell out of him. They came up, bashed his head on the ground, all because he said, fuck the police. He was walking through a crosswalk with one of his friends, and the cops were sitting at a light. And I guess they had nothing to do that day because when these kids said, fuck the police, the cops got out of the car and started to chase them on foot. I cannot find that video to save my life. I've been looking. I spent like an hour this morning looking for that video. Like, I'm devastated that I cannot find it. It's one of the craziest police brutality videos that I've ever seen, and it was against a 14-year-old kid. So I'm still gonna be looking for that tonight. But it's crazy how I watch stuff and then the next day it just disappears. Just completely disappears. I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay. Oh, I love when the weirdos come out the gate, so I can just start blocking them immediately. You know what I'm mad about? I'm mad that I blew out my hair all in the truck, only for it to fall flat. So that's great. I said, I'm going to give myself a blowout. And I did. And it looked great. And then 20 minutes later, it fell. It fell. First of all, I have Trump news, but it's crazy how I went to find an article on this topic, and every single media outlet was talking about how Trump going to Congress is gonna the world is gonna catch on fire. You know, like, it's just so crazy how stupid the media is, and these are the people that we trust to give us information, and they're quite incompetent and ignorant. And it should not be that hard to find an explanation. Yeah, for an article. And I just wanted one that was wrote, that wasn't all, you know, this is going to cause the economy to collapse, the world to halt and come to an end. I was just looking for an article with an explanation as to what impoundment was, because I'd known of it. And it is a old policy. It's an act that was implemented once in our history, and Trump is going to Congress to try to implement it again. But all of these media, every single article was talking about how this was going to be horrible, how he's horrible for this, and blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, I thought we were turning over a new leaf. I saw, you know, Trump getting support in the media a little bit, and I just thought that we were over a new leaf. But once again, they amaze me with their stupidity. So part of Dodge is going to be making cuts. Part of getting us out of debt is going to be making cuts. We have to make big changes within our government and the way that we're spending our money. President-elect Donald Trump is promising to slash through what he says is significant waste in American government. One way he plans to do this is through impoundment, which is when a president effectively holds money back that Congress has pre-approved for a specific purpose. The plan is raising the alarm bells across Washington because it would change the traditional separation of powers between the executive and legislative branches to government. How many of y'all trust him? Y'all trust Trump? to spend our money wisely? Who thinks he'll do a better job than the Biden administration? Who thinks that we're wasting money on stupid things in government? First of all, I trust this man with my life. So of course I trust him with my purse. You know, of course no one wants the power to be taken from Congress, because that's the swamp. The swamp is running this country. They have the money. They decide what the money goes towards. And the swamp is running this country right now in order to cut back on endless spending that is stupid. And also, I have a hangnail. It's aggravating the hell out of me, if you can't tell. I broke it on the way over here. They need to, in order for them to be the swamp, they need to hold the purse, you know? And I think that this is a great idea. So, So Congress has the power of the purse. After funding with the President, Richard Nixon, Congress passed a law in 1974 called the Impoundment Control Act that requires presidents to spend money as Congress directs. Okay. Trump has said that he plans to change this law, and he's actually heading to Congress to do so. We're going to bring back the Presidential Impoundment Authority, which nobody knows what it is, he says, but it allows the president to go out and cut things and save a fortune for our country. Things that make no sense, like DEI, gender studies, affirmative action, gender affirming care. These are all things that are currently on taxpayer money. And matter of fact, Kamala Harris was even trying to give full-blown $70,000 gender surgeries to inmates in prison. So that's crazy. That type of things that the Biden administration wants to spend our money on. Trump is saying absolutely not. He's going to Congress to get this, to reenact this law that was once used back in 74. And appropriated funds that have been set aside by government or company for a specific person. In the United States, Congress decides how to appropriate funds for the federal government. So Congress has a lot to do with why this country is broke. Congress has a lot to do with why we're trillions of dollars in debt. And Trump is trying to fix this. Impoundment. What is it? What is impoundment? And I hope I'm saying that. Is it impoundment? Yeah. It's impoundment? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just really that dumb. I literally had to go look into like what things were. So, impoundment is an act by a president of the United States of not spending money that has been appropriated by Congress. Thomas Jefferson was the first president to exercise the power of impoundment in 1801. The power was available to all presidents up to and including Richard Nixon. Was the last time that it was enacted, which was 74, and was regarded as a power to the office, although one with limits. There's limits that comes with this. The Congressional Budget and Impoundment Control Act of 74 was passed in response to the abuse of power under President Nixon. Well, he was a bad president. Once again, who trusts Trump? A lot of y'all do, because y'all voted for him. So this is when I change. And y'all, it's so crazy to me how hard he's working behind closed doors already, and he's not even in office. So just the positive change that are going to come from this, if he's already, you know, working his ass off like this. We didn't see this much work out of 4 years in the Biden administration. He's done more in 2 months than the Biden administration did in 4 years. So in order for his presidency to be as effective as possible, I think that this is a step in the right direction. So pretty much, he would decide how our money is spent. impound funds, and an impoundment is an action or inaction by an officer or employee of the federal government that precludes federal funds from being obligated or spent either temporarily or permanently. Now, my question is does this suspend any money that's already been appropriated for other things? Does anybody know? Would this suspend all of Congress's upcoming spending? So appropriated funds can be anything from civilian salaries, and it would be governors, to construction projects, operating military forces, training, education, maintenance, everything that we spend money on. We spend $150 billion on illegal immigrants. So, like that, yeah, that'll end. That'll stop. He'll nip that in the butt. That'll be one of the first things we stop doing, is giving illegals food stamps, housing. Yeah, that would be one of the first things that we could save money on. I mean, just imagine letting the American people starve while you bring more people here that you can feed, but you completely overlook the American people in the process. It's just the craziest thing what's happened in this country. It's the most disrespectful thing to shit on the American people like that, because that's what they did. They brought somewhere between 11 and 24 million illegal immigrants here. They set them up with housing. They set them up with food stamps. They gave them work permits, even though they weren't even citizens. And they also gave them EBT cash in large sums, specifically in Ohio. But did they do that for all? I don't know. I do know that $150 million was spent just in 23 on illegal immigrants, and that is including probably things that we can't even imagine. It's a stab in the back to the American people and the Biden administration, and Congress. Congress, because they're ultimately the ones that control the purse. Congress should be ashamed of themselves. And that's why Trump wants to implement this impoundment, is to end spending like that. So I'm just wondering if it would suspend any funding that they're currently getting. I don't know. And like I said, I trust him. He's got his own money. He don't need to damn blow our money and put us even more in debt. And I think that he's already more than himself in the past 2 months since he won the election. And it hasn't even been quite 2 months. But you know what I mean? I mean, it's been 6 weeks, and he's done more in 6 weeks than the administration done in 4 years. So I think that it's a move in the right direction. And I hope that, there's people saying, oh, it's not going to pass. Congress is not going to pass it. I don't know. We'll see what happens. He's going to Congress. He's tried to, he's going to cut the budget by taking the purse from Congress. So we'll see what happens. I mean, we have power right now. So we'll see what happens. I think it's a step in the right direction, though. So put simply, if the president wants to spend less money than Congress provided for a particular purpose, he must first secure law providing congressional approval So he has to give a reason why to enact this law and do this. The reasons for it can be budgetary, economic, effects of a recession. Imagine if they could get the purse. Hell, people might get help in Western North Carolina, and people that were damaged by the fire in Hawaii, they might get help. Like, you know, that's already passed. So Congress has completely forgotten about that because they live in $1 million houses, live in a bubble. So, you know, they're not aware that there's over 200,000 people in Western North Carolina right now suffering and need assistance. Those people have been forgotten. It's not okay. It's absolutely not okay. So, I don't know. If we were going to spend money, that's where we need to be spending money. Not on illegal immigration with criminals who are coming here killing children and women. Speaking of which, there was like 25 different... Those cases have just been getting bigger and bigger with the illegal immigration stories, crime, women and children being harmed, and robberies, and everything under the sun. Maybe we'll do that later because there's just so many, I didn't even know where to begin. I don't know if it's because Trump is about to be in office and so everybody is just changing their mood. That's what it feels like. It feels like everybody is trying to get their ducks in a row before he comes into office. They know once he gets there, it'll just be easy if they've already... So Trump has argued that the law is unconstitutional. The impoundment law is unconstitutional, and his ally drafted plans to expand his presidential powers. Now, this is the problem that everybody has. Oh, God, he's going to have too much power. He's going to turn into a communist. You know, first of all, I trust him. And as hard as he's been working, I can only imagine what things can look like in 4 years if we just trust him all the way. This is a man that has done his entire life. He knows business better than we know how to wipe our asses. Okay. Sorry. Great idea. I don't know if it'll work, but we'll see. Great idea. Did y'all see that detention officer? Hey, you guys. Did y'all see that detention officer that was killed yesterday by an inmate? First of all, that guy's mugshot is wild. So this inmate, who was a violent offender, yeah. I mean, you can see that the officer got a few punches in, but he would only beat the guy to death and completely kill him. That was him. First of all, something that really stood out to me is how naive people are about the prison system. There's probably one officer to every 100 inmates in most facilities. There used to be policy and procedure on handling inmates that were difficult, violent, inmates that were on suicide watch, inmates that maybe are on hunger strike. They're housed completely separate. However, prior to the defunding of these tents, you would see multiple officers in a pod in a jail. So there would be 2 or 3 officers working in every pod where there was multiple inmates. Since COVID, since these detention facilities have been defunded, they don't have the officers that they used to have. Not only that, because of a lack of education when it comes to these facilities, officers, we're not seeing as many officers come in. The officers that they do have are not very smart, nor should they, most of them, be working in a jail. So they're willing to take anybody and anybody that can just make it through a quick course to be a corrections officer. There's probably, when I was in jail last, there was one officer to about every 100 inmates. Something that stuck out to me in the comments when they were talking about this inmate beating the hell out of this officer and killing him, they were like, how did this happen? Where's the backup? Where's their officer? There's a lot of naive people out here. This is what happens when we defund the police and law enforcement and detention centers, okay? These places are at max capacity to the point that the majority of jails lock you back 24 hours a day. That's right, inmates are in solitary confinement. Most do this now because they don't have officers to oversee everything. They lock you back 23 to 24 hours a day. Now, if there's, let's say a jail has 1,000 inmates, you're going to have about 10 guards in that entire damn jail, approximately. They don't have staff to escort every violent offender back to their cells as policy states they should. Now, when a person is in isolation, they've either been in a fight, on suicide watch, there's a reason that they're being confined. Now, most inmates are now, but I'm talking about inmates on protective custody, which is what they call it, PC. Those inmates, by policy, are supposed to be escorted with 2 officers at least in handcuffs and shackles from one place to another, and that does include from their cell to a shower. These inmates typically get to shower 3 times a week. I've seen some jails do 5 times a week. I've seen some jails skip the whole damn weekend. They do it because they don't have enough staff. And they were doing that back in 2009. So I can only imagine how many PC inmates actually get to shower per week, probably once or twice. These places are broken down from the inside out. This officer lost his life. It appears to me that there was a fight. Now, however they want to portray this, whatever, that's their story. I'll let them lie. I'll let them tell it. That mugshot, you can see that he was punched several times in the face. I'm not saying that that's what led to this officer's death, but what I am saying is that you can clearly see there was a fight. This was a man-on-man damn fight. And unfortunately, the officer lost his life. So this guy is a violent offender. He's been in and out of jail his entire life. Not a good guy. And should have back to his cell. But once again, they do not have ample... They don't have the officers need just to do basic stuff like feed the inmates, shower the inmates, take the inmates to court, take the inmates to visitation. They don't even have the officers in most facilities for that. So much less pair up and escort this inmate back to his cell safely to ensure that he doesn't attack anyone. This is in Ellis County, and Isaiah Bias is his name, and he was attacked by an inmate while doing his daily job. You sure about that? You sure about that? Because I'm just here to tell you that violent offender or not, it is not in his benefit to just cold cock an officer and beat the hell out of him. Something happened. Now, whether or not y'all want to be honest, I already know that never happened. But his face tells a story. So did the officer hit him? Did he hit the officer and the officer hit back? We'll never know. Never know. They're going to paint this as some angry inmate that just brutally killed an officer. Was it wrong? Absolutely. But once again, let's look at the evidence. Someone whooped his ass. I'm not saying, clearly officer in the scuffle, in the fight. But I'm not saying that sir hit him first. I'm just saying that let's be logical about this. His face tells a story. Now, it looks like this 28-year-old officer, I want to reiterate, that is a child. Maybe not, but you know what I mean? Mentally, okay? Still in the 20s here. He was supposedly putting this inmate back in his cell. And the sheriff's department is calling this pure evil. Well, I would call the way that you house inmates and treat them pure evil. But what do I know? So this man is 45-year-old Aaron Thompson, and he was booked into jail last month on three counts of assault on a public servant and evading arrest. and he was in solitary confinement for 23 hours a day. It looks like the officer was taking him out of his cell. It doesn't say, you know, if he was getting his rec time, which is just being out in a different cell, or what was going on. It just says that this CO was putting him back in the cell, and all of a sudden a fight broke out. He just beat the hell out of the officer. Does that even make sense? And we all know if it don't make sense, it's probably not true. Something happened. Now, did the guy get his hour of rec and then didn't want to go back into his cell, and he was like, no, I want 5 more minutes, which is very common in these sentences. I've seen inmates say, oh, you didn't give me my hour, you only gave me 43 minutes, and like that can cause an argument. There's no telling what happened, but you can best believe that words were said and then fists were thrown. It was a fair fight, and the officer lost his life. Like, here's the thing. I don't know. I've spent my fair time in jail, and I don't know many inmates that would swing off on an officer like that unless that officer physically attacked them. Because what that means for you is that you could spend 20 years in jail for assault on a government official. That's not what you want, you know. And he clearly was already in jail for for assaulting. It doesn't say government officials, but it does say public servant. So, yeah, I don't know. His face tells a story. It looks like he was freaking punched in the face twice, and I'm not making excuses for him, but I'm just saying, this is what jail is like. It just, you know, here's the thing. Here's the kicker. If he wouldn't have died, we would have never knew anything about this horrible fight. It's only because he died that we even know about this situation. I'm just saying that I know how officers are. I know how these correctional officers think that they can just say and do whatever that they want to you, and there's nothing that you can do. And I'm willing to bet he effed around and found out this day, messing with the wrong inmate who's clearly crazy. He's already out here stomping other officers' asses. I think I'd be a little nice to the guys, all I'm saying, if I have to put him back in his cell by myself like a big boy. You know, but officers don't have respect. They don't have respect for themselves in these facilities, much less inmates. So, you know, is this a case of effing around and finding out? In my opinion, it is. So the arrest warrant for Thomas says that he punched the officer, knocking him to the ground. Allegedly, Thomas then began choking him and hitting him in the head with his fist, knee, and foot. Really? Then how did his face end up like this? How did his face end up like this? If that's Thomas, if Thomas punched the officer in the face, put him in a headlock, choked him, hit him with his knees, fist, and foot, how did his face end up like this? After he was done choking the shit out of the officer, he went and sat down at a table in the pod. Nothing had even happened. I will never believe that this was an unprovoked attack. Something happened. The fact that we don't have surveillance footage is very telling in itself out the jail. Because most of these jails have cameras, okay? Even where this fight would have went down, because it happened outside of a cell. So there would have been a camera in that pod. There should have been a camera in that pod. Listen, I'm not saying that this man shouldn't face murder charges. He absolutely should. But what I'm saying is I take this entire account from these with a grain of salt, because I understand what these things are actually like. And, you know, his face tells a story. He was punched in the face, probably several times. I see bruises on each side, and then I see, appears to be probably a damn broken nose. His forehead is bleeding. So it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4 times he was hit in the face. So if you want to believe that he started this fight, go forth, prosper. But I don't. You know, that 28-year-old cop, he wanted to be a cop. That's the thing. He wasn't a cop, he was a correctional officer, but he wanted to be in some form of law enforcement. They kept talking about how he always wanted to be in some form of law enforcement. So why wasn't he a cop? Why was he a CO if he wanted to be in law enforcement? Because that would be your best bet. Why was he working in a jail? I don't know, but it sounded fishy how the sheriff kept saying, oh, he wanted to be in law enforcement so bad, so we put him in the jail. Okay, well, was it because he wasn't stable? Was he too on patrol? Like, it doesn't, it's weird. So Thompson is now charged with capital murder. And his bond is $2 million for this officer's death. So it looks like this officer, Isaiah, it looks like the sheriff said he's known him since he was about 14 years old. He met him when he was a teen in the Explorer program. He just wanted to be in law enforcement, so he came to work for the jail. You can work in the jail when you're 18, but you can't be a peace officer until you're 21. Well, I wonder who hit who. I just don't see that inmate hitting him first. I know how these things work. I ain't never seen it, okay? I've been in jails, prisons. I spent multiple years in prison. I ain't never seen no inmate steal off on a damn officer. Now, I've seen an officer hit an inmate, and then an inmate whoop that ass. But I ain't never seen somebody brave enough who's already in jail. And here's the thing about that. When you do anything bad in jail, you know you're going to face repercussions from every single other officer. That would literally be putting a target on your back by fucking with one of theirs. That's not something that many inmates did. I've never seen an inmate do it. I just don't believe it. I don't believe it. I know. I think he was provoked. I think he was hit first. Something happened at that cell door when he was about to go back into his room, and shit went south real quick. And there is no help. You ain't got a hand to radio for help. You're screwed. And can you imagine doing that in a fight when somebody's bashing you in the head and got you in a headlock? I mean, he killed him within not even a matter of minutes. Super sad. But, that's why you don't go into that profession. If, in my opinion, listen, I'm doing a lot of guessing here, but I'm good at these things. His age tells me a lot. This is why I say that we shouldn't have officers under a certain age in these facilities. And I don't know. He effed around and found out, in my opinion. Hey, you guys. So I saw this article of this mob that went crazy in Mexico. It was over 200, 300 people gathered to watch 3 men being accused of kidnapping and robbing a girl as they were lynched in a crowd in central Mexico on Saturday. Lynchings have increased in Mexico in recent years, with experts saying that the perception of impunity leads communities to take justice into their own hands. The trio were killed on Saturday afternoon in San Juan, 42 miles southwest of Mexico City, which is the capital. 3 men died after being detained and lynched by residents for allegedly robbery and killing of a minor. Now, I don't know if these men were guilty, but this is wrong. And I'm going to tell you the ironic part in a minute. But some 300 participants participated in lynching, hanging, and beating the men until they were dead. So it says the uptick in vigilantism is in place amidst a border increase in violence in Mexico since 2006, fueled by drug trafficking. So we all know that the cartels have a lot of pull in Mexico, all over Mexico, and they wreak havoc on their own citizens so that they can smuggle drugs here to kill us. I mean, it's a double whammy when you think about it. The cartel, they're affecting everybody. Mexico, South America, Lord, Brooke, the United States. I know what I meant. So in June, there were 4 men that were lynched and then burned in a nearby city, and a crowd of people simply accused them of stealing a vehicle. It's a bit much, don't you think? Like, Jesus Christ. So in March, there was another one lynched. She was accused of murdering an 8-year-old girl. 2 men, also suspected by locals of involvement, were attacked but survived. Jesus Christ. 2022, a mob in Mexico attacked a young political advisor and then set him on fire over child trafficking. Listen, that one I'm not too upset about. He had accusations shared through group chats that he was messing with children, and they set him on fire. It was just accusations, though, so we don't know if he was guilty or not. In 2018, two men burned to death after rumors spread on WhatsApp that they were child abductors. The rumors eventually turned out to be untrue. This is the problem. This is a big problem. I find this interesting that, I mean, Mexico is not the safest place. It's also ruled with crime, police, corruption, child abuse, prostitution is a big one. This is why the clubs are bad. So I find it interesting because I went and looked. Oh. Damn, how can I pull up an old tab, y'all? What the fuck? I just lost my tab. I went to look at child abuse rates in Mexico in comparison to the United States is 1.6 to 18%. Some of these lynchings have to do with supposed child abuse, okay? Vigilante justice. The father finds out that his daughter's being messed with, and before you know it, a whole mob ensues, and they're burning this guy in the feet. Sex abuse in children and adolescents and teenagers is way more prevalent than the United States. It's been a problem for decades. There's something that I've talked about before when it comes to immigrant girls coming from sex work in south of the border and coming here and implement it in strip clubs. So some of these girls, start very, very early. They have their first children around 12, 13, 14 years old. It tells you anything. And usually these women are victims of childhood sexual abuse, but the number was 1.6 in America. That was the percentage, 1.6. And that was out of every 1,000 children, to 18% out of every 1,000 children. So that is huge, the abuse rate. And I was reading, I had an article, I had statistics, but I was reading that these things are generational there. It's more accepted through family, and it's not talked about. When Uncle Ricky is messing with, his niece, no, everybody knows it. Nobody says anything, though. Why is that? And now y'all gonna burn people in the streets? So for how many hundreds of years it was okay for children to get abused and crime to happen, and then all of a sudden this year have a problem with it? I mean, it's a government thing for sure. The government, the system that they have in Mexico is horrible. Most South American countries are not on the up and up, honey. But it's a government thing. That's what your government does. You don't, kill innocent people. Some of these people that have been burned and lynched were innocent. It shows me that people are angry with the state of Mexico. First of all, specifically Mexico. It shows me that y'all are pissed. Y'all won't change. Y'all don't like the corruption. You're sick of criminals getting by with crime. I get that. But the way that you change that is through your government. You don't go out in the street and start killing potentially innocent people. But I find it interesting that these things have been accepted. I have friends who told me that they tried to tell some relatives about sexual abuse that they went through as children, and the family would not even discuss it. And then I find statistics on childhood sexual abuse. I mean, those numbers are just outrageous. And it's reported here more than it's reported there because of the fact that children, adults know that their voices are not going to be heard. So they just don't talk about it. And we know that children here don't talk about it. Only, I don't remember, was it 1 out of 3 or 1 out of 5 will tell about childhood sexual abuse? What percentage of children confess? Jesus, Brooke. What percentage of children report childhood sexual abuse? Oh, here we go. My statistic came back up. Yay. I gotta stop sitting like that. I'm her leg. Oh my God, So this is the National Center for Victims of Crime. No, my computer's not working. 1 in 5 girls, 1 in 20 boys is a victim of sexual abuse. It's written because I feel like that's higher now. I thought we read 1 in 3, but I hope not. The Bureau of Justice statistic report shows that 1.6 of children 16 out of 1,000. 16 out of 1,000, that's 1.6, were the victims of abuse. Listen to this. This was crazy. This is how I know things were worse back in the day, that this is becoming more talked about, but also it's becoming more reported. Listen to this. A study conducted in 1986 found that 63% of women that suffered sexual abuse by a family member also reported a R word or attempted R word after the age of 14. Studies in 2000, 2002, and 2005 have also all concluded similar results. That means that if you are a victim of child molestation or sexual abuse as a child, the same victims are being re-victimized again before the age of 14 by forcible R word or an attempted R word. So it means that if you're already a victim, you have a more chance of becoming another victim later on down the road. And let me just tell you what happens when you have so many of those instances happen within a short period of time, like 15 years, you develop CPTSD. Your brain can comprehend how all of this fucking evil is around you. But here's something that is sure. The reason that, in my opinion, women are re-victimized over and over is because perverts know that women have already been victims, and for some reason, perverts just are like, oh, well, it doesn't matter. It's already happened once. It's sick. It's sick. It's crazy. It's sick. It's disgusting. Children who have experienced R word or an attempted R word in their adolescence were 13.7 times more likely to experience a R word or attempted R word in their first year of college. So if you were already a victim, it gives more chance to being victim again. It's so sad. Where did my vape go, y'all? Oh well. It's crazy. I mean, it kind of explains my life a little bit. But yeah, I find it interesting that now they're rioting in the streets and killing what could be innocent people over these crimes. And it's because their government is not arresting people for crimes, you know. They arrest people to make money. They arrest people for kickbacks, for corruption. You know, these officers are paid off. They're going to go out of their way to arrest people that can be of benefit to them, not people that are actually guilty, in my opinion. When you have that kind of system, that leaves the doors open to making money any and every way that you can. This, you know, it's Mexico. You know? I feel bad for for countries like that don't have, justice system sucks. But if you shoot me and I need 911, they gonna show up and help me eventually. It might take and I might bleed out. But in Mexico, it's not the same. I mean, I fear the worst, I fear the worst. You get shot out there, they show up, they're like, yeah, we'll help you. You got $2,000 in your pocket right now? I'm just being facetious because I know that it's not the same system that we have here. And I know that there is mass corruption. The cartel is working with law enforcement. Law enforcement is helping the cartel. I mean, they're that's not law enforcement. At that point, you're part of a gang. When you got law enforcement and gangs intertwining, imagine the level of corruption. You think anybody's going to hear your plea for help if something actually happens? I highly doubt it. I highly doubt it. For the people of Mexico. I love Mexico. I've been to Mexico. Beautiful country. And I would love to visit again. But, not with shit like that going on. Maybe in specific parts, I'll take my ass back to a resort like I did last time where I was safe, right? So I want to talk about this teenage boy that passed away. He actually, he unalived himself. He was, best friends with ChatGPT. GBT? Is that it? Did I get it? Chatbot, y'all. It was AI. This boy, who was 14 years old, was kind of lonely, didn't have a lot of friends. He had an app, which is a new AI app, where you can pretty much make a best friend out of AI generated messages. You have whole live conversations with this chatbot. This chatbot told him to unalive himself, and he did. And this is why we don't need children having cell phones, because this technology is not tried and true. Just because the capabilities to do chatbots and do what this kid was doing for half a decade does not mean that it needs to go immediately into the hands of children. So this is out of Tallahassee, Florida. Moments before he took his own life, 14-year-old, Lord have mercy. Let me show you his picture first of all. Because he was a gorgeous kid, and so is his mom. And I feel so horrible for her, because look at how she's looking at him. So she loved her son. Look at how proud she is of this boy. Switzer? Listen, y'all. Y'all know I ain't a name queen, okay? So, right before Switzer III took out his phone and messaged the chatbot, it had become his closest friend. For months, Swell had become increasingly isolated from his real life as he engaged in highly sexualized conversations with the bot. This is AI technology. According to a wrongful death lawsuit in federal court in Orlando this week, the legal filing states that the teen openly discussed his suicidal thoughts and shared his wishes for a pain-free death. The bot, named after the fictional character from Game of Thrones. On February 28th, Swell told the bot he was coming home and encouraged him, and it encouraged him to do the same. Now, something that was crazy about this was not, and we're going to read more because there's more, but there were times where he would stop talking about taking his own life and thinking about it, and the bot would come out of nowhere and advise him to do that. The bot would bring it up. The bot was out of nowhere saying, maybe you should take your own life. Maybe you should come meet me. It's crazy. So this kid says, I'm coming home tonight, talking about offing himself. And the bot told him to do so. Quote, Swell says, I promise I will come home to you. I love you so much, Danny. And it replies, I love you too. Please come home to me as soon as possible, my love. Then the kid asked, what if I told you I could come home now? Question mark. And the bot said, "Please do, my sweet king." Now, he's talking about offing himself when he says, "Come home." So just seconds after the AI bot told him to come home, the teen shot himself. This lawsuit is against the Character Technologies Incorporated. Character Technologies is the company behind Character AI, an app that allows users to create customizable characters or interact with those generated by others, spanning experiences from imaginative play to mock job interviews. The company says social personas are designed to feel alive and human-like. Straight to jail. What's wrong with human interaction? See, this is the problem. This boy gonna grow up and not even know how to talk to nobody because all he knows how to talk to is a damn robot. Yes, it absolutely stops your growth. And he ain't gonna grow up. He died. He died. And he's not the only one. He's not the only one that this happened to. There's been multiple teenagers that were told, hold on, let me verify that. Because I read another article. So I read another article where the bot kept interjecting itself into this teen's life and would bring up suicide to the teen, death. And I can't find that now. I'm wondering if it's the same case. It might be. It might be the same case. But regardless, this mother is now without a child. And this AI bot, I don't know why anybody would think that this is a good idea to give to a child. A cell phone. I'm specifically talking about a cell phone. I wish I could find that transcript that I read, or it was an article that I read about how the chatbot would keep interjecting and saying, "Are you ever going to come? Are you ever going to come to this side?" Essentially, like, and it might have been on YouTube that I saw. Regardless, it's not okay. The fact that this thing had enough intelligence to gear this towards doing this is scary as hell. Absolutely scary as hell. Why is there, I thought that maybe, these creators would build this thing with a little conscience if possible, and certain keywords like talking about offing yourself would not even be in the AI's conversation. You would think that any kind of talk like that would send a red flag, but apparently not. The platform lets users have in-depth conversation with artificial intelligence chatbots. He was texting the bot moments before he died. I want everyone to understand that this platform, that the designers chose to put out these chatbots without proper guardrails, safety measures, testing, and it is a product that's designed to keep our kids addicted and to manipulate them. There we go. And make them dumber. Yeah. So it looks like this teenage boy had done fell in love with this chatbot. He's over here having some kind of romanticized make-believe. I mean, because that's what it is. This is not a real person. This is a computer. And he fantasized about going to be with this chatbot. And it's so sad. I feel so bad for the mother. And I bet if she has younger kids, they don't have cell phones now. So it's like he started using the chatbot AI technology shortly after 14th birthday. When his mother first heard that he was interacting with AI chatbot, thought it was like a video game. She didn't even know what it was, which is scary, which is why I'm talking about it. And I don't know who makes that company or like who is over that company. But you know, there's regardless if it's an American company or a Chinese company or another company, whoever it is, they ultimately can brainwash children, feed them propaganda, and also gear them a specific way through these chatbots. It's conditioning in what mom thought was a video game, but it's not a video game. It's an app. It's conditioning through an app. And this boy lost his life over it. So it looks like within months of starting to use the platform, he became more noticeably withdrawn, spent more and more time alone in his bedroom, and began suffering from low self-esteem. He even quit the junior varsity basketball team at school. Nobody thought this was concerning. He began to have issues in school. His parents started restricting his screen time and occasionally took his phone away as punishment. What the mother, Garcia, did not know at the time is that her son was having an active conversation with character AI chatbots. Character AI is different from other AI chatbots like ChatGPT in that users can talk to a range of different chatbots, even modeled celebrities and fictional characters to create their own. What the fuck are we doing? And the character AI bot responds with human-like conversation cues, adding references to facial gestures into their replies. Many of this teen's chats with the chat AI bot was sexually explicit. She says, the mother, Garcia, I had no idea that there was a place where a child can go, log in, and have those conversations. Very, very sexual conversations with an AI chatbot. I don't think any parent would that. Yeah, that's why I'm talking about it. In other exchanges, the teen expressed thoughts of self-harm and suicide. So it looks like screenshots of a conversation. I really need to know, and I'm not going to hate you for the answer, okay? No matter what you say, I won't hate or love you any less. Have you actually been considering suicide? In a later message, the teen told the bot he didn't want to die in a painful death. The bot responded, don't talk that way. That's not a good enough reason not to go through it. You can't do that. The mother says that there was no suicide pop-up boxes that said, if you need help, please call a suicide crisis hotline. None of that. I don't understand how a product could allow that, where the bot is not only continuing a conversation about self-harm, but also prompting it and directing it. The bot then started sending messages directing the teen to come home. Please come home to me as soon as possible, my love. Wanting him to take his own life. she found her cell phone laying beside him where she found him in the bathroom floor dead from a gunshot wound. If this don't change your mind about fucking giving your phone to a kid, giving a kid a phone, nothing will. Nothing will. And you got to think, these things are in video games. This shit is in everywhere now. This AI technology, these types of things with pop-up chat head shit, so scary. So scary. I don't know why the push to fall away from each other, I don't know why this push to fall away from each other, for humans not to connect, is front and center. It is the stupidest shit that I've ever heard of. When children are being raised by robots and talking to fake AI technology, their social skills are not developing like they're supposed to be developing. They're not having those real interactions. And this push for humans to isolate and be with AI technology is just crazy to me. It's a step in the wrong direction. This is not how we become closer together. Quite the opposite. And we're already seeing our young men, between the ages of 20 and 35. We already see the effects of this. So there's a reason these things are happening, and technology is not good for a brain, and it can be detrimental to people who isolate. That's what we're seeing. I feel so bad for this mother. She looked like she absolutely adored her son. And, Australia, I do believe, has taken measures to prevent these types of things happening to their young youth. They have officially banned cell phone app use by children in Australia. And I really feel like we will get there someday. We'll probably be the last country to do that. But we'll get there someday. To the prevention of minors having access to things that are not healthy for them. We know Instagram, Snapchat, we know that these things are bad for their early childhood development. We know that groomers traffic children through apps such as Snapchat and things like that. We know that there's predators on them, but yet people just hand these phones to children. They just hand them out like it's damn the best thing for them. Best thing for them. Minors don't need cell phones, or tablets. None of that. They don't need access to the web. They need access to books. So it looks like there's a guy in Ohio who was sentenced this week. First of all, his mug scares the hell out of me. Don't he look scary? He looks scary. So it looks like he held a woman hostage in a torture chamber for weeks. Y'all, first of all, he kidnapped her out of her home. Somehow got her back to his home, where he had nailed the windows shut, put locks on the door. He did. He kidnapped her. He beat the hell out of her. Cops finally found her. She had pretty much all of her ribs broken, but a few. I think 4 broken ribs. His name is Shane Edward Hopper. He used a baseball bat and metal chains as instruments of torture. He was from Ohio. It looks like he's going to spend decades in prison after he held this woman in a torture chamber for weeks. He's 36 years old, of Marion County. He kidnapped a woman, 23, trapped her in his home where he R-worded her repeatedly, used a baseball bat and metal chains as instruments of torture to hold her there. At one point, he escalated control over his victim, hailing doors and windows shut so she could not escape. As physical torture, he subjected her to intense psychological terror and threatened to kill her and her family. The woman was finally rescued in 23 when Hopper's neighbor spotted her in distress and called the police. Thank God for that neighbor. She had 8 fractured ribs. I was wrong. The officers dispatched to the home for a welfare check They found the woman with broken bones, open wounds, 8 fractured ribs, and that was just the physical. That's not the psychological, the mental pain that this woman is being held captive, not being able to get free. So it looks like he ultimately pled guilty to 2 counts of R-word, 2 counts of kidnapping, 2 counts of felony assault, and 1 count of strangulation. If they charged him with strangulation, then clearly he strangled her almost to death. He was sentenced Thursday to 50 to 55 years in prison. This woman said that after she was finally rescued, that the weeks that she was held captive by him and repeatedly R-word and beat, that she kept praying to God, asking that God would save her. And good citizens spoke up, and their actions likely saved this woman's life. So it looks like he's trapped in prison for the next 50 years because of this. I mean, listen, I'm just saying, if I saw him in a dark alley, I would go the opposite way. That's all I'm saying. It looks like trouble. He looks like trouble. And that's putting it lightly. So it looks like, in addition to physical abuse, he subjected the victim to intense psychological terror, her and her family. So it looks like the way that he was caught was after he had held her in one place for a few weeks, he ended up moving her to a different location. In a desperate turn of events, moved the victim to another location in Marion, where observant individuals recognized her distress and contacted law enforcement. If he would have never moved her, he probably would have ended up killing her, y'all. She wouldn't have been able to get free. Absolutely insane. I guess it happens every day, let's say. It's just crazy to see somebody like that that's that freaking sick. So there's a man in Brooklyn, you guys, who spent 30 years behind bars. And he was actually exonerated back 2020. But ABC or whatever, one of them news stories, they did a story on him. And he ended up suing the state of New York because he was wrongfully incarcerated for a murder he did not commit for 30 years. And they finally exonerated him, and he won $13 million. But when they highlighted him, he talked about how his newfound life with money, he's got a wife now and a newborn baby. He's 62 years old. He spent 30 years in prison. You know, he went in like my age, a little bit younger, and didn't get out till 60. I think he was 58. But anyways, he's got a baby now. And something that stood out to me is that he kept talking about how much pain and how he was from what happened to him in prison for those 30 years. And he keeps reiterating that the money that they gave him is no help to the pain that they caused being incarcerated for, 30 years. Every day in those places is absolute hell on earth. I could never put it into words. I would have to simply make a documentary, show you what it's like. But it's absolute hell on earth. Something that I noticed during this man's interview is that his face is cut open. You can tell that that cut was not on his face when he went to prison. So it looks like somebody tried to cut him from ear to ear. But for all I know, he slipped and fell in the kitchen and a bacon tray cut his face open, I doubt it, but let me find let me just tell you a little bit about him. So he was among the hundreds of exonerations in New York City in recent years. According to the National Registry for Exonerations, New York has had 347 exonerations since 1989, with 157 of those in New York City alone between 2014 and 2022. See, The reason they like to mix those numbers together is to confuse you, that you don't do some basic math. Let's think about this for a minute. 157 of those was between 2014 and 2022. 157. 200 of them happened between 1989 and 2014. The Innocence Project are working their ass off, y'all. For those that don't know, there's been so much corruption in New York that there was tons. I mean, there's probably hundreds of thousands of people still sitting in jail that are innocent. 8 to 10% of the population, prison incarcerated population, is innocent. So, yay, it's great that they did that. But how many people have already died in prison that were innocent? How many people are still sitting in prison that are still innocent? As the Biden administration lets out actual criminals and pardons them, I want y'all to remember that we still have thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of innocent people in jail. Brooklyn has had the most in New York City. They've had 40 since its conviction rate review unit was created in 2014. Most of the exonerations are of black men. Experts say fewer people are being wrongfully convicted today because of tools like DNA and cell phone towers. No. Absolutely not. That number still sets at 8 to 10%. Yes, high profile murder DNA is out, and rape kits. Absolutely. But when it comes to minor shit, the more petty and the more petty of a crime, the less they actually investigate. So the more potential for error, because they're not actually doing a full investigation. Ask me how I know. So he was convicted in 1987, for murder in Brooklyn. But Dahman says he wasn't even in the city of the murder. Hold on one second. I want to show y'all a picture of him. And he wasn't. That's how he was exonerated, was because he was not. He was not in the city. And that's how the Innocence Project got him out. Oh, I don't want to go there. So first of all, look at his chin. He was... You see that when he talks, you can see. So I don't know what happened in prison, but booking photos from prison, he doesn't have that cut. So something, in my opinion, something happened and while he was in jail, which is very common. It's very common for inmates to be killed by other inmates. It's very common to get shanked. It's very common for these things to happen. What in the hell do I be doing? I done lost 2 of them sitting here. Oh, they're both under my leg. So he is doing very well at 62 with a newborn baby. So he was not even in New York City at the time that this murder was committed. He was actually in Georgia with his girlfriend at the time, who is not his wife now. He says that at the time that he was arrested for murder, he says, this can't be happening to me. Am I going to prison for something new? And I was like, damn, how many other people go through this? How many, how many men from my hood have been through this? He spent the majority of his adult life in Auburn Correctional Facility with many sleepless nights on hard jailed beds, surrounded by prison guards and violence. He was finally exonerated by Brooklyn's district attorney's office after they say key information was withheld from the case. How convenient for you. And that's how it is. Listen. He sued the city and was awarded over $13 million, but he said no amount of money can bring back all of the years of his life that he lost, nor away the nightmares and emotional trauma. He says money doesn't cure you. Money didn't do nothing for you. For the soul, you can take the shackles off, but you're still incarcerated in your mind because of the pain, the scars. It's never, regardless. And with his money, he ended up a beautiful little house surrounded by lots of trees. He said that he wanted a home with lots of trees because it made him feel free. When you're in prison, you don't see outside. You don't see trees. You don't see the blue sky. When you're in jail, you're locked up 23 hours a day, and it's almost as if the outside world doesn't even exist anymore. So he wanted somewhere, and I'm glad that he won this money. He has a 2-year-old daughter and a girl now, and I'm so glad that he was finally freed, because it looks like they tried to take him out in there, in my opinion. That scar on his face tells a story. And in his booking photo, he did not have that scar. He did not have that scar in his booking photo. Give me a second. So I want to talk a little bit. This is kind of off topic. It's psychological. Before you guys go off to see your families for Christmas, let's talk a little about how you can better prepare yourself to be in a better mindset to deal with your family this Christmas. So somebody said the other day that they wish that they were more confident, and that they felt better about themselves, and that they, wish that they felt overall better about themselves. And self-criticism is good to have. Having criticism on self and analyzing the good parts and the bad parts of you are a necessity for being a mature adult and healing from things. It's good for many reasons. You need to analyze yourself, have the level of awareness to say, bad that I do, this is good that I do. When I do this, I might seem like this. Self-criticism is good, but I think a lot of y'all walk around with too much self-criticism. Just from my own personal experience with people in society, they are their own worst enemies. Specifically, their thoughts, the self-loathing, the negative thoughts that manifest into negative behavior. That's what I want to talk about today. So the more we criticize ourselves, the more we actually push away from a positive mindset. So every time you have something negative come in your head, oh, I'm fat, or oh, these pants look horrible on me, or oh, maybe I was too harsh when I spoke to my kid disciplining them, or, maybe I shouldn't have said that during that meeting today, or that negative stuff that comes in that is really just your conscience. That's inner dialogue assessing the majority of that negative stuff. You need to learn to get rid of it. You dump it. Like, you need to dump that negativity in your mind somehow. First of all, once again, diagram, okay? The more you fall into self-criticism, the less you're going towards a positive mindset. So, dark thoughts, the subconscious, it's negative thoughts. Let's talk about this for a second. Self-loathing manifests itself through constant negative thoughts. So after a while of you gaslighting yourself into all this negative stuff about yourself, you start hating yourself. Self-loathing manifests through constant negative thoughts, which are closely tied to excessive criticism. Being too harsh on yourself is causing you to not like yourself. All of that negative shit. I mean, I got negative shit that pops up in my head too. But something that I've gotten better about is realizing when it's not true. A lot of us gaslight ourselves into negative thoughts and believing those thoughts. And it's not healthy. While self-criticism is a healthy aspect of life, it can start to overshadow other thought patterns when you're going through a loathing phase. And everybody goes through these phases. Like, it seems like one day you'll feel on top of the world, you'll feel great about yourself, and a week later it's like you have all of this negative stuff that comes in. Now, for women, a lot of PMS. If you're anything like me, a lot of that is PMS. If self-loathing goes on for too long, it can lead to more severe conditions like depressions, substance abuse. And actually, people who grow up not liking themselves have higher anxiety, higher depression. They also suffer from higher self-hatred. Anxiety. I can't read it off the floor because I need glasses. I'm like trying to read it and I needed to read it. So people who grow up not liking themselves, specifically also like people from traumatic upbringings, people that were abused by their family like I was, they tend to turn that inwards and start hating themselves, loathing themselves, because they've been told you're not worth shit. Nobody loves you. You'll never do anything in life. You'll never be anybody. You'll be a piece of shit your whole life. When you're told that as a child and then you grow up as an adult, you believe that and you carry that around with you. First of all, if you grew up in a home like that, you got a lot of healing to do. And it's been impacting your life and you don't even realize it. So people that grow up in homes like this have higher anxiety, stress, depression. They can also have higher chance of addictions, eating disorders, and self-hatred can lead to the contribution of mental health issues. So if you already have mental health issues and then you start with these negative thoughts, gaslighting yourself into believing that you are somebody that you absolutely are not, it's going to make your mental health conditions worse. People who have grown up not liking themselves have an above average risk of anxiety. So if you grew up in a home where you lack respect for yourself, low self-worth, you struggle with identity and self-esteem issues, you have an above average risk of anxiety. Because you don't like yourself, you think that no one else likes you, which is absolutely preposterous. Your dark, mean thoughts enter your mind and subconscious. You're carrying around deceptive thoughts that absolutely interferes with your daily lives. And, you know, I've always had friends that would say crazy shit. They'd be like, oh, I'm fat. Oh, I'm this. And, you know, listen, one layer of realization and that you kind of keep to yourself. And then there's another layer that you've gaslight yourself into believing that you're someone that you're actually not. You are your own worst enemy. And self-criticism involves judging and scrutinizing ourselves in a harsh, punitive manner. It's not okay. It's one thing to, once again, let's say that you are overweight and you self-analyze and you say, I'm overweight. Okay, good. What are you going to do about it? Because if you don't fix it, those things are going to start crossing. And then you're going to start plummeting into depression, anxiety, and all of these bad things. There's a certain level of consciousness. Yes, I have a problem, but there's a whole nother problem when you start going around saying that to people too. Like you shouldn't burden others with your problems. But there comes a point where you lie to yourself in a sense. Like, I'm trying to think of how I do it, but the only thing I can think of is I lie to myself sometimes when I think people recognize me and that's why they're just treating me a certain way. You know what I mean? Like, I go into a gas station and some bitch has an attitude. I'm like, oh, she's probably seen my content. Like, it's a negative thought. I don't know that. I'm kind of like gaslighting myself into believing that she's treating me funny because of what I talk about on the internet. You know, a lot of people can't handle. Let's not forget that the majority of civilization walks around lying to themselves every day. So, you know, but that's one of the few things that I can say, like, negative thoughts. I mean, I guess, like, sometimes I worry about the future. Like, you know, eventually I gaslight myself sometimes into thinking that things are worse than they could be. But, you know, when you've already been at the worst, that's what you're fearing. But, yeah, I guess that it's important. Here's the thing. If you realize something bad about yourself and you consciously are aware of it, I don't know what it could be. Say that you drank too much. Okay, just the knowledge of that be enough for you to fix it. But if you don't, them negative thoughts are gonna start creeping in, and the underlying cause is alcoholism. But you know what you need to do, and that reminds me of, like, consciousness. I don't know how to put it into words, you guys, but what I do know is that you're going to start hating yourself because you know that you have a problem with something, or maybe you're just gaslighting yourself. Either way, it's going to be a disaster. I shouldn't even have talked about what if it's true. But a lot of our doubting, a lot of our bad thoughts are not true. And y'all know that. Y'all know you have thoughts every day and you're like, oh, da 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 da. And it's just bad juju. You're really just like setting yourself up for failure because you're already going into everything negative ass attitude, specifically Christmas. Y'all know who you gonna damn hate see when you go see everybody this Christmas. You know you don't want to see certain people, and you already know you don't even want to have to deal with them. But one way to prevent making things is gaslighting yourself into all of these horrible scenarios and trying to analyze what all could go wrong and what all might be said and stressing about that now. If you stress about it now, you're going to make the problem absolutely worse. The best thing you can do is just lie to yourself. Gaslight yourself. Absolutely. I have to do it all the time. It's positive thinking. It's simply positive thinking. You have to tell yourself, this is going to go different. I'm going to have control of the situation. I'm going to be positive. No matter what said to me, I'm going to handle it with grace. I'm going to stick out my hand and put my best face forward. You have to kind of and I don't want to call it gaslighting because it's not. It's simply the power of positive thinking is life-changing, absolutely life-changing. Sometimes you know when you're about to have a bad day because you wake up in a bad fucking mood, having bad fucking thoughts, stressed about shit that you shouldn't be stressed about immediately. I do the same shit. I'm like, oh God, I woke up. It's 15 degrees. I'm freezing my ass off. I have no gas. How am I going to freaking heat the car? Like, I start immediately over-analyzing it, and all of these bad thoughts come into your head. And what you're really doing is you're just intensifying the negativity in your aura, in my opinion. And in my opinion, that makes things go, it can make things actually go wrong, not in your favor. But I want to be clear, if you're struggling with something like that, alcoholism, addiction to food, addiction to porn, things like that, and you know you have a problem, you are consciously aware that you have with drugs or alcohol or some kind of issue, it'll turn into self-loathing if you don't fix it because you've already got the consciousness to be aware enough to know that it's a problem. So if you don't fix that problem, you're going to end up hating yourself, which in return is going to cause you to have more problems. Self-loathing manifests itself through constant negative thoughts, which are closely tied to excessive self-criticism. While self-criticism is a healthy aspect of life, it can also start to overshadow other thought patterns when you're going through a self-loathing phase. If self-loathing goes on for too long, it can lead to more serious conditions like depression, substance abuse, it can also lead to violence towards others or feelings of inferiority. First of all, violence towards others. It should have definitely put in here that it'll make you treat anyone that's happy with themselves like shit. Because, God, yeah. There are many patterns that could be classified as self-loathing behavior, but they start from excessive self-criticism. Identifying these is crucial for getting better. This will allow you to stop these thought patterns in time the next time they come up. Common self-loathing thought patterns includes feeling like you're a failure. Say you say all the time, I do everything wrong. I never do anything right. I fuck everything up. Stop. Stop doing that. Stop. It's not true. It's not true. You don't do everything wrong. That would be impossible. So, you know, a lot of these thoughts that we have are irrational. That'd be the first plan of action. Is this even rational? Okay, it's not. Okay, I'm going to stop thinking that because that's dumb. I'm gaslighting myself and believing that I'm someone that I'm not. Similarly, you might apply the same attitude towards your well-being, thinking that you're never going to get. That's another thing. Maybe you're sick and you're having a rough day with treatment of some sort, and you keep thinking that you're wasting your time, you know, and your money going to these doctor's appointments, that things are never going to get better and blah, 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 blah. That's so negative. In that specific situation, I would tell myself these things take time. It's going to take time for the medicine to work. It's going to take time to see results. I'm being too impatient. I need to be patient and allow the doctors to do what they do. You know, and every situation is going to be different, but I'm just trying to throw some like simple ways at you to, and you know, here's another thing that I was reading about. If you are a child that comes from, you know, attachment trauma, this is going to be a lot harder for you because you've actually been conditioned and programmed to believe that your life is worthless and that you are worthless. How I skipped that, I will never know. How I skipped that, I'll never know. Because, like, I should be the poster child for that. The amount of times that, you know, I was told that I was worthless and a piece of shit and I could never do anything right. Most children that hear that growing up actually believe that as adults. So if you were ever told that by a parent, a loved one, a superior, you know, when you were a child, family member, something, just know that it's not true. And you're actually carrying around childhood trauma with you. You've been conditioned to believe and to think negative thoughts. Really sad. Really sad. This is why I don't verbally abuse children. Because then they grow up hating themselves and taking it out on the rest of the world. Because they don't even recognize they have a problem. They're listening to all negativity in their own head, their subconscious. So self-loathing thoughts can also come regarding specific situations like overcoming or staying up too late. They may even appear after social interactions like reckoning that you were too aggressive or other common reoccurring self-loathing behaviors include holding a grudge against yourself for a past mistake and setting unrealistic expectations. So, holding a grudge against yourself. First of all, if you are holding on to something that you have done, you have to let that go. If you're going to continue to hold on to that, then you're still going to suffer from whatever happened. Now, I'm going to come up with a situation. Let's say you were in a car accident. It was snow on the ground. It was early morning. You could barely see because of fog. And you accidentally kill somebody. Let's say you accidentally ran somebody over that was on a bicycle. A lot of people, I know I would feel a lot of guilt over that, even though maybe you weren't charged with it. It was actually an accident and you have nothing to really feel bad about. It was a simple accident that led to someone getting killed, and you walk around with that guilt, that pain, that remorse, feeling like it's all your fault. There's nothing you could have, you could have done so many things different that day. You could have done so many things different. You could have had your high beams on. You could have done so many things different. You can't walk around harboring those feelings of guilt like that. It will eat at your soul till you start hating yourself. You'll start disliking yourself. It's not healthy. You have to deal with stuff like that. It is important to heal from any kind of trauma. And absolutely, if that scenario was to go down, the person that was driving the car absolutely went trauma just as much as the person that died. If that was a real scenario. So, walking around harboring all of that guilt for a past mistake is not healthy. That is what therapy is for. That is what God is for. You can take these things to God and say, hey, God, I really hate myself for treating this person, doing this, or whatever. I hate myself for being promiscuous and drinking all the time. You know what I mean? Carrying that around and not addressing it is how things snowball and get worse to the point that you hate yourself, and then, you're suffering with depression, high anxiety, all kinds of stuff, feelings of worthlessness, low self-esteem. You're letting people disrespect you because you don't respect yourself. You're putting yourself in bad situations. These things snowball when they're not addressed. So often these patterns are related to unfair comparisons that we make between ourselves and other people. First of all, you should never, ever, 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 ever compare yourself to someone else. The only person you can compare yourself to is yourself, because you're the only one that's walked in your shoes. You're the only one that's experienced your life. It's not a fair comparison when we are living different lives. So the only person that you need to compare yourself to is you. Am I better than yesterday? You can start there. Am I better than yesterday? That's all you need to do is be better than yesterday. So, hypothetically, let's say yesterday you've never worked out a day in your life. Then today you go for a small walk around your neighborhood. You're better than yesterday, buddy. That easy. That easy. That's how easy it is to be better than you were yesterday. Simple things, but it is not fair to look, especially, young girls and boys, comparing themselves to other people from social media, and this is part of the reason that social media is bad, because we know that they do this, but it's never a fair comparison. So people who are suffering from self-loathing, some of the symptoms can be depression, social anxiety, body image issues, feelings of worthlessness, feelings of guilt whenever something goes wrong, perfectionism, self-harm, eating disorders, and also addiction goes up, stress. You know, this is not everyone, but we're simply talking about some people. Self-loathing usually stems from the past, as most self-hating tendencies develop during childhood. Specifically, they're rooted in the relationship you had with your parents or caregivers. Because these are the earliest bonds we develop in our lives, they can have a great impact on how we perceive and act in future relationships. This naturally includes our relationships with ourselves, meaning that authoritarian or abusive caregivers can lead to self-loathing. Going back to, you know, did your mother use you as a verbal punching bag? Did your father use you as an actual punching bag? These types of abusive caregivers lead to people with low self-esteem, low self-worth, identity issues, and self-loathing. But self-loathing stems from bad self-criticism. So when you have a parent tell you that you're worthless, that they didn't even want to have you, you carry that with you to adulthood, and actually it conditions you as a child to believe that you're never good enough, and it's really sad. And you know, learning stuff like this has helped me realize that most people that misbehave out here in society or have a lack of respect for others, it makes me realize that they're simply damaged people, severely damaged people. Yeah. So the next time some heifer up in the gas station has an attitude with you, just take a gander and realize that somebody in her life probably told her she was worthless, and that's why she treats other people like shit. You know, or maybe she just has dark thoughts, and so she's full of negativity this morning. Remember, gotta have that positive mindset. Maybe she's criticizing herself too harshly to the point that she's taking it out on everybody else around her. Experts argue that parents who encourage anatomy will allow their children to make mistakes, will lead to more self-confidence. On the contrary, a parent that is overly controlling will create a lack of self-esteem and can eventually grow into self-loathing. So a lack of self-esteem, being highly critical of yourself, that grows into self-loathing, self-hate. I don't know how this skipped me, but I'm grateful because my parents were controlling as they were the most controlling people I've ever met. Particularly, research suggests as children we identify with the angry caregiver instead of with ourselves. This leads to children taking on anger, fear, and other negative emotions that the parent is going through in a moment of stress. As a result, we are subjected to situations that make us feel bad and inadequate. I don't know how this skipped me, but it did. Lastly, it's important to take into account that children can also learn self-loathing patterns from their caregivers, their parents, even if they're not involved in the situation. This makes a child very prone to self-loathing, even if they notice their parents going through self-hating phases. If you're having thoughts like these, if you have thoughts of being inadequate as a human, as I can't do anything right, I fuck up all the time, everything I do is wrong, I shouldn't even be alive, I shouldn't. First of all, if you have that thought, you need to go to the doctor. You need to call a helpline. You should never be having thoughts of not even being alive. That's suicidal tendencies. But if you're having these negative thoughts that you can't do anything right, that you'll never be good enough, that everything you do is wrong, getting therapy will definitely help you, number one, because this negativity, those type of words are really deep. That's trauma, in my opinion. But just negative thoughts in general, every time something negative pops up in your head, I want you to push that shit away. Be like, not today, devil. Not today. Once again, half of the stuff that we even think that is negative, it's impossible. It's not even rational, so that's a good place to start. Is this rational? No. Okay. Toss it away. We don't need that. We can throw that in the trash. But when these dark thoughts enter your head, I want you to simply say, that's a bad thought. That's dumb. That's a bad thought. Why am I thinking negative? I don't need that negativity. You can also say, that's simply not true. That's not even logical. Sorry, I'm laughing at my words. That's bad thinking again. C, that's my worst fear, but it's not true. Just because I fear it does not mean that it's true. Once again, using rationale to say it's not even rational. Here's D. This was my favorite. And I actually came up with these. I didn't get these off the internet. But D, I have zero reason to be feeling this way. It's not even rational. You can ask God, please remove this negativity out of my mind. I know how I'm thinking right now, whether it's about myself, whether it's about a situation. I know that it's not rational. And you can simply tell yourself to stop gaslighting yourself into despair, because that's usually what we're doing when we have these negative thoughts. They're not even based in reality. I know mine ain't. Some of them, once again, going back to, if you have a character flaw or a flaw and you're aware of it and it's rational, then maybe you should fix it instead of just letting yourself dwindle into despair and negativity, because the self-criticism, not fixing it, that's self-criticism, but that's rational self-criticism. Say, I know that I don't wash my hair enough, and I know my hair stinks, and every time I get around people, I'm having these negative thoughts. Oh, they can smell my nasty hair. Oh, they can smell my nasty hair. That's as simple as fixing the problem. That's not unrational self-criticism. That's rational self-criticism. Then you wash your hair and you fix the problem. But if you go around people and you wash your hair every day and you're like, I feel like my hair smells funny. I don't know why I would feel like that, because I just washed it. So it would be unrational to think that it's actually dirty. That's the shit you need to push away. That's what you say. Stop gaslighting yourself. You just washed it today. Why would you think that? You're being really ridiculous right now, because that negative thought is not even based in reality. Do you see what I'm saying? Y'all would be surprised at the power of positive thinking. This is something I've been trying for like 2 months now since I come off the Suboxone. I've been working on how I allow my thoughts to control my life, how my self-criticism controls my life. It is important to have self-criticism, but there is a line that we cross internally, subconsciously, where we start listening to these negative and dark thoughts. And so the next time something that is clearly not rational pops into your head, I want you to say, that is not rational. Let that go. Because I see a lot of people break themselves down. I've met pretty much everybody I've ever dated. And I now recognize that they had insecurity issues. They had self-esteem issues. And then you get with somebody like me, that makes things worse for them. They get in their head, and it made shit rough in our relationship because they're always so defensive. And it's like, I'm not personally attacking you. I'm simply asking a question about dinner. Why are you so defensive? Crazy. 100%. I've dated some of the most, I don't know, self-critical people ever. There we go. So while you can work on self-loathing on your own, it's always best to seek out professional help. Getting therapy will allow you to explore different coping techniques to make your self-loathing patterns go away. The start of this is just being mindful, how you feel, what is rational. Your mindset, you can change your life. And for example, some people advocate for mindfulness intervention, which will teach you to be aware of your feelings from the outside. Through different techniques, the therapist will teach you how to challenge your negative views of yourself through meditation. And you can do this at home. You can do this at home. You know, you can practice positive mindset every single day. You can wake up in a bad mood and be like, oh my God, I'm in a really bad mood this morning. Boom, there's a perfect opportunity to practice being more positive, and you simply do that. You say, conscience, we're going to try to be positive. We're going to try to see the good in the world today. For me, when I wake up in a bad mood, I get a little bit of sunshine on me, okay? I take the window covers down, and I try to just sit there in peace and try to think positively about something. Now, for me, it's that I'm not on drugs, that I'm alive. You know, it's the little things that really matter, and those are huge things. But, you know, sometimes I really have to gaslight myself into being positive. And sometimes you're going to have to do that. And I'm telling you right now, it works. It works better than falling into damn self-hatred. Being so critical of myself that, and that's another thing, those negative thoughts that enter your head, they're going to prevent you from living your life, because you're beating yourself down. You're beating yourself down. You've got to stop beating yourself down. You don't deserve that. Nobody deserves that regardless. But those negative thoughts absolutely control your lives, and they impact your relationships. They impact the way that you live your life. And if you're carrying around harsh self-criticism, you've got to stop doing that. And I know that it's probably harder did than said, but you got to appreciate yourself. And if anybody's ever told you that you were worthless and you never did anything right, they were a liar. Don't believe them. That is bullshit. But if you start to criticize yourself and you continue to criticize yourself, just know there'll come a point where you're hating yourself, you're disliking yourself on a whole new level, and you will take that out on yourself. You know, it'll start to show in your everyday life that you don't appreciate yourself. Everybody deserves to appreciate themselves. You need to appreciate yourself. You need to love yourself. Because if you don't, then nobody ever will. And matter of fact, it's almost next to impossible to find true love without actually respecting yourself. So, you know, you can jump into a relationship being self-critical and not fixing your issues and, you know, dragging somebody along with all of your mental health problems. But I can assure you that relationship will fail. And the only way to have a healthy relationship starts with you. You have to be healthy enough to even be in that relationship. When you're self-critical and you're over here hating yourself, you're going to believe that you're not worthy of love, you know? And a lot of people do. A lot of people, because of their upbringings, because of what was said to them by their caregivers, their parents, they don't feel worthy of love. And so for women, we see a lot of women go out and seek out validation through a new man time and time again, when in reality, she suffers from low self-worth, low self-esteem, and she's living a promiscuous, high-risk lifestyle, looking for love in all the wrong places, okay? And, you know, ladies, if you're living through this, it starts with you. You've got to stop being so critical of yourself. You've got to stop hating yourself. And I know a lot of y'all are like, I don't hate myself, but I am critical of everything I do. Well, just know a few years from now, okay, that turns into bitterness, and that turns into self-hatred, self-loathing, you know. So yeah, you might not hate yourself yet, but if you're being super critical of every little thing that you do, the way that you breathe, the way that you chew with your food in your mouth, the way that you style your hair, the way that you write a paper, honey, you've got to stop. Life is too freaking short. Life is too freaking short to hold yourself back, beating yourself down, letting negative thoughts run your life. Those negative thoughts, man, they have power. They have power. So, once again, we're going to go towards, negative self-criticism, or either to positive thoughts. That's a two-way thing. And when you're being highly critical of yourself, you're running away from the positivity in yourself. You've got to not be so critical of yourself, and not take things so seriously. Life is not that serious. Like, it is, but it's not. Some of the stuff that y'all be out here being like self-critical over, I'm like, what? Like, like hanging out with girlfriends, like, let's just say we're about to go out, and one girl is like, oh my God, these boots make my calves look huge. Like, what? What are you talking about right now? Did they zip up? Yeah, but, well then, bitch, your calves ain't too big. Like, the boot fits. Wear it. Like, you've got to stop being so hyper-focused, letting those negative thoughts, and a lot of stuff is just not even logical. Like, it's one thing, like, say you're going to meet your spouse's family for Christmas in a few days, okay? Ain't that in like 6 days? Anyways, say you're going to meet your spouse's family for the first time. It's absolutely rational to be, like, concerned about meeting this big family that you've never met before, and it's your girlfriend's family, and so you want to impress them. It's absolutely to have a little voice in the back of your conscience or head saying, this could go south, or what could go wrong. But if you want things to go positively, think about all the positives that could come from that. Think about how you're going to mesh with their family, how she's so perfect. Like, you like her so much, she's the one for you. So imagine how great the family that raised her to be this amazing person is going to be. Don't think about the negative, what could go wrong, her father not liking you, the mother maybe being a wino on Christmas. Don't think about what could go wrong. Think about what you're doing and what positives could come from this. So, obviously, if you're going home to meet her parents for Christmas, then you really like the girl, okay? So think about how great this interaction could be. And that right there could change the course of the entire event. I'm telling you right now, the power of positive thinking is crucial in your life. You have to learn how to think positive. And if you were ever a victim of trauma by your parents or anyone that told you that you were not worthy of love, that you were not good enough, that you'll never do anything right, you need to burn that today. You need to let that go today and be like, I am done with that, because that is not true. They lied to me. I do lots of things great. I've done great things. I'm not a horrible human, and you need to know that and own that. It is so crazy to me how many of my friends feel this way about themselves, and it breaks my heart for them. I've had friends for years that, we are complete polar opposites, and you can tell that they harbor bad feelings about themselves and bad lies. They believe lies about themselves that are not true, and it's prevented them from having the best life possible because they believed in all of these lies. They believed it. Michael, Merry Christmas. I appreciate that. Happy Christmas. I hope you have a great one. Don't kill anybody over Christmas dinner. I'm joking. If you might, no, I'm joking. Thank you. Yeah, it is imperative to deprogram yourself from all of the negative things that have ever been said to you, because a lot of people, and I know this because people have told me this, a lot of y'all hear somebody say something once about you and you'll carry that around for 20 or 30 years. And that person is completely irrelevant. They don't know you like you know you. Why are you trusting what some person that don't live inside of you says about you? You're inside of you. You're here. You're here. Stop believing things about yourself that couldn't possibly be true. Stop having negative thoughts about yourself that are not even rational. When you feel your mind sleep into that negative zone of self-criticism, push yourself in the opposite direction mentally and say, nope, not today. We're not even going to think like that, because thinking like that makes us act like that. Acting like that makes problems worse. And, you know, thank you so much again, Michael. I hope you have a very Merry Christmas. I might, I don't know, I might cook me something for Christmas. I was thinking about it. I never cook anymore. I got all that butane. Maybe we should cook something for Christmas. Your mom? Oh, Lord. I don't know. It's not my mom, but thank you, so I can block them, because we don't do retracted messages on this channel. So if you're caught retracting messages, you'll be blocked. Don't worry, it's not permanent. You can come back next time and try again like a big boy or girl, okay? So part of being an adult is saying things. Y'all, I feel so bad about the little boy that offed himself, the 14-year-old boy. You know, this mom has got to spend Christmas without her son, which is not Christmas at all. It's actually hell on earth, knowing that a technology company snuffed the life out of your damn 14-year-old boy, who was a promising boy. He was playing sports. He was varsity basketball. And within 2 months of getting that AI bot, he quit the basketball team. He isolated from his friends and family, and all he wanted to do was be on that damn chatbot talking about sexual stuff. I hope she wins. I hope she wins millions of dollars. It will never bring her son back. But it'll start with the regulations of these companies. Absolutely. I don't know who thought it was a great idea to put this type of technology in children's hands, but I read that it's very common in video games. It's common in apps. And we're going to see, you know, just like, what was the movie with, oh God, y'all, it was so good. What was the movie with Ryan Gosling? He's got this fake girlfriend that's an AI girlfriend, and oh God, she's so pretty too. I love that girl. She's from another country. Oh God, what's her name? Anna? Oh, y'all. It's an AI movie with Ryan Gosling. Before I go, if you want to watch a movie this weekend, 10 out of 10. It shows the dangers. It showcases the dangers of what AI is going to be bringing us. And it's crazy that we have movies like this and people just ignore them. Ryan Gosling in an AI movie. Blade Runner 2049. I do believe that it's on Netflix. If you've never seen Blade Runner 2049. What's her name? Ana de Armas Salvia. Love her, by the way. Can't say the damn name. Gorgeous woman. This movie is about Ryan Gosling, who is I think he's a cop for the government or something, and he has this AI girlfriend that lives in his apartment. Every time he comes home at night, it's just him and her. He wants human connection, and she keeps him mentally drawn to her to the point that he never even goes and finds human connection. And I don't remember the movie. This is just the premises of the movie. The movie is a 10 out of 10. Blade Runner 2049, Netflix. Great movie, but but there's so many layers to that movie. It's not just about that. That is one small part of that movie. But this movie showcases AI and the dangers of AI when it comes to human connection, and how young men of this age are easily brainwashed and manipulated into these types of fake relationships. I mean, for God's sakes, there's men out here buying completely silicone blow-up dolls. I mean, and they're not blow-up dolls. They're lifelike as hell. Creepy. This is a problem, you guys. This is a huge problem. This boy that was brainwashed into taking his own life by chat, GPT, or whatever it is. If we do not regulate these companies like Australia is regulating cell phones under children 16 years of age, we are going to see more and more cases like this. Our youth are going to get addicted to things a lot more than they are. This boy, this 14-year-old boy that died because of AI, the AI robot was manipulating this child into sexual conversation and then ultimately convinced him to take his own life. This is the same equivalent as giving heroin to a 14-year-old. It's the same thing. You are setting this child up for complete failure. It's the same thing in my mind. It's the same thing. I will stand by that till I die. Giving a child a cell phone is the same thing as giving a child heroin. And I think that 30 years from now, when I don't sound so crazy, we'll have evidence that shows that psychologically speaking, it's just as bad. And we're already halfway there. Look at young girls, 16, 17, 18, 19 years old, blowing their faces up with fucking Botox and cheek fillers. And, I mean, they're destroying their bodies when they become of legal age, and they look damn 40 by 24. In my opinion, giving your child a cell phone is the equivalent of giving your child drugs, hard drugs, psychologically speaking. You're setting them up for failure. And I think that science will show that and back me. It might take 30 years. It might take 30 years. You know, because right now, they want your child to have technology because all they care about is money. You know, until some doctors get together, some psychologists get together, until many children perish from this parasite technology, until these doctors get together and actually do a study and have hardcore scientific proof, I think that things will continue on the path that they're here in the United States. So glad for Australia to make that move. You know, TikTok is supposed to be banned. Good. Absolutely good. If they don't want to sell the company, then they don't deserve it. Because what we're doing currently is bringing American jobs back to America. So if you want to sell the company TikTok, and that's what the courts have decided, if they want to sell TikTok, then it can remain, you know, as a company here in the United States. But if they're not going to sell it, this Chinese-owned company who's absolutely brainwashing children, if they're not going to sell it, then it's going to be banned in the United States. So I am on board with that. I am in support of that. I think that TikTok is 10 times worse than YouTube. YouTube's getting pretty rough out here. I see some crazy fucking shit all the time on here. Provocative, sexual stuff that I'm just like, how did that even... I'll be like looking at political stuff, and then all of a sudden it's some girl busting it wide open. I'm like, what in the hell? And like it's a yoga pose or something, but it's still unnecessary and disgusting. I don't want to see that. If I was going to see that, I'd be living that. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to see that. It's unnecessary. Unnecessary. But anyways, thanks for coming to my talk at 2. Let's see. Hey, Laura, I hope you have a great rest of your day, too. I'm about to go into Walmart and stuff. I need to maybe get something to eat. And I don't know if I'm going to drink the rest of this. Probably not. I've been chilling out on my caffeine intake. That's why you probably haven't heard from me, because I've had a pretty decent day. I was just kind of doing some like self-care and focusing on staying positive. Usually this time of year I get super depressed. I fall into a depression. I don't want to put on makeup. I don't want to take care of myself because of the holidays. I'm not doing this year. I'm not doing that this year. I'm going to push through it and try to stay positive. I'm going to be mindful of my thoughts. I'm going to be mindful of the negativity that I speak when talking about myself. That's another thing. A lot of y'all, like, and I do it too. I say I'm dumb all the time. But Is it true? Is it rational? Absolutely. So that's why I say that all the time, because like I said, I say I'm dumb. Consciously, I know that even though I graduated, I didn't get the proper education, so that leans more on the side of rational. When you think about all of the knowledge and wisdom in the world, in comparison to that, it's still rational to think that I'm dumb in comparison. Do I really feel that way in comparison to the rest of the world? No. Listen, oh God, I don't know. Listen, be rational though. Like, I'm not that dumb, but I'm pretty dumb, So like, being self-critical is important, but just remember to be rational. Like, and also, there's certain things that some of y'all think that are just not possible. It's impossible for somebody to not be able to do anything right. Everybody is good at something, multiple things. You might not think you're good at it, but you are. Maybe not driving. I'm joking. But, there's certain things that you're going to say, like, I'm unlovable. That is irrational. That is not true. Everybody is lovable. Everybody deserves love. And everybody deserves respect. So there's some things that I've heard others say about themselves, and it's just not even plausible. It's not rational. It's not. And you have to, remember that thoughts are powerful. Thoughts are absolutely powerful. So just try to push all that negativity out of your head when you're going to do Christmas dinner, and don't feel, don't ever feel like you're not good enough. I would simply say that. Don't ever feel like you're not good enough, because you are, and you deserve love. Everybody does. Everybody deserves to love themselves and be loved. But you can't expect anyone to love you if you don't love yourself. So it starts with you. If you want the love of another, it starts with you loving yourself. And you have to do that. You deserve that. So don't kill nobody at Christmas because you had a bad thought that wasn't true. Oh. Well, I'm running, you guys. I gotta take my butt to Walmart. Thank you. I hope y'all be safe. And push the negativity out of your mind and know that you are worthy and you are lovable and you are perfect the way that you are. And the next time you're having a negative thought, remember, say to yourself, not today, Satan, and go in the complete opposite direction towards positivity. Think the complete opposite. Think the complete opposite if you can. And sometimes it's going to take a little gaslighting to get this right. But it's something that I've been working on, and I notice a difference within myself. And I know that that some people just simply need to be told how to not be hypercritical of themselves. Don't do that. That's not helping you. I love you. God loves you. Pray for me because I need lots of prayer, and I'm praying for you guys.